Saturday's Avontuur Estate race day at Kenilworth provided some emotional and nostalgic moments, with homebred and home-owned VAR filly Valdera providing one of the highlights. Returning from a long layoff, she faced a field of smart female sprinters in the race named after the estate's founder, Tony Tabor.
Barushka up towards the outside, goes the quickest. Valdera has her in her sights over towards the inside. Nova Zembla's in behind those. Covenant now creeps closer. She's about 3 off the lead. Lake Dross goes up towards the outside with State Blue. They're inside the final 400. Barushka now being pressed by Valdera, comes forward to pick it up in the centre. Lake Dross goes in behind that. Covenant now sets out after the leader. Still has 2.5 to make up. They're inside the final 200. Valdera is out in front from Lake Dross, and Covenant's trying to reel her in over towards the inside, but Valdera is clear. Covenant and State Blue are coming in the closing stages, but Valdera, too good, goes on to win. State Blue up for second, Covenant third. Got very tight for fourth. Maybe Lake Dross go the outside.
Absolutely brilliant. Honestly, she's been off for 6 months. I think all credit must go to Dennis, master conditioner. A lot of people, were really behind this filly, and it was great for all the camaraderie. It was brilliant, and she won very, very well. She won hands and heels, no stick, and she'll probably go on from here.
To win the inaugural running of the Tony Tabor was pressure and a great honour for me and to Avontuur. Everyone at Avontuur, well done.
Okay, what's next on the program for her?
I think we'll just see what happens tomorrow and go from there. Cape flying was our next main mission, so let's see. Hopefully all goes well.
It's just so special because something like this unites so many people, and to come from so far, I've come a long way, and I knew just there was something special. To Dennis, to Pippa, to my boys, this is very special, a blessing. And most of all, I need to mention my late husband, who had serious faith in what he was doing, and I want to just pay tribute to him right now. Thank you, Tony. I hope you're enjoying this, because we are.
There's a good story with Valdera. She wasn't sold at the sales. It was the year that Mr. Tabor had passed away. Blair was running the show, and he was nervous and young at it. And Valdera was in the last half hour, after 4 days of selling. We were well in front in our budget and our target. We were delighted. And I said to him, let's stick to the reserve of 400. But I don't think we'll get it. There's nobody here. And he said, no, fine, 400. And I went and sat in the toilet. Came out and she was not sold at 370. And about 3 people phoned to say, why didn't we buy, accept the 370? I said, no, we have to keep a filly. So it's been a great story that we've kept her. She then couldn't come back to Avontuur because of the outbreak of horse sickness. So, it's a long story, but anyway, she had colic surgery. So she's been through a lot, and Dennis has planned her life and her career. I cannot thank him enough for the way he's taken such good care of her. He's trained her like I would describe. Somebody asked me yesterday, how do I describe Dennis? He's like an English trainer. They used to debut horses in the Guineas. When she went to the race course, she went to win. And she didn't need 3 or 4 practice runs to get there. She arrived on course today after being off since June and won. And it's a great, great training effort. I strive to try and get people upstairs in the Peninsula room that have never raced before. That's really what I'm trying to do, because the normal guy knows where the races are. So we've had 300 guests up there, and I think 190 have never been to Kenilworth before. So that's a great start. So we're getting some new blood in the game. I think the branding was fantastic this year. We've accumulated good branding over the years, boards, signs, so that the whole race course, you knew you were at an Avontuur race day. And the fact that it's a fillies Guineas, and we had Valdera winning the sprint, also filly, it just made a nice feminine touch to the whole day.
The showpiece event of the day was the Avontuur Estate Cape Fillies Guineas, in which the past season's champion 2-year-old filly, Princess Victoria, was looking to live up to her regal reputation. She races in the famous Jaffe Silks in a partnership involving Georgina Jaffe, Peter de Beer, and her breeders, the Jacobs family of Main Chance Stud. Glenn Cotson is her trainer.
Main Chance had sent out a brochure of what they thought was their top 20 yearlings. And if I looked at the brochure once, I looked at it 100 times, and I kept coming back to her.
In amongst that crop, there were 3 or 4 fantastic fillies. and she was one of the standouts. She was a beautifully balanced filly. She had size, she had scope, and Glenn has an amazing eye for fillies, and he and I like the same type of filly, normally well balanced and easy on the eye.
I always believe champions always have that presence where they're almost looking at, they're always looking like looking in a distance, almost like she was looking up at the sky. And I just loved it. I just loved it pose. I thought this, I've got to have a look at this filly in the flesh. And I got lucky. I met Georgina Jaffe at Bernard Cantor's party, end of the year party in Robertson. And after a long chat, she said, "Look, I've got to have a horse with you." And I said, "That'd be fantastic." I didn't really have a buyer in particular for that filly, but once I pulled her out the box, it was love at first sight. I just loved everything about her. She had a great hind leg. She was just full of quality. She had the most beautiful head. And she walked like a cat. She had an overstep like I haven't seen anything overstep before, and really deep in the girth. And more important is that first impressions are lasting. It's what I saw in the pictures, what I saw standing there.
Glenn Cotson said to me, "I'm mad about this filly because she goes back. She's part of your old family, and she goes back to Petrava and Hoerberg. I think grand dams. There's a link through the female line." And something struck me. My mother always used to say, and I think people know that my mother Jean was often thought to be the sort of brains behind the calculated decisions that were made in the racing, whereas my father was sort of very excitable and got very involved in the sort of bigger picture and the finance side. And she once said to me, "We do well because people often asked, why do you do well?" She said, "Because we buy back our bloodlines." And somehow when Glenn said, there's a bloodline here, there's a family thing, was a bit sentimental because they had died the previous year, I thought, wow, let's do this. So it was an extraordinary quirk of fate, really.
We paid $325,000 for her. Georgina kindly took half. I asked Peter if he'd have a look at it, and I said I think she was something special. Peter came back to me and said, "Look, I think she's got the pedigree and everything else, but if you look at, he's a number man, he's an actuary. He just said, I think you overpaid for her."
Georgina and I had been partners in a filly we'd bought early on in the year. We both got similar views on what we're looking for, fillies with pedigrees that you can think about breeding with later on. And Glenn offered it to the two of us, and Georgina took her half, and I foolishly only took a quarter, and the farm kindly kept the other quarter.
And eventually I went to John Slade. I said, "John, I've trained so many bad ones for you. What about training a nice one for you?" I said, I really feel confident in this filly. Have a chat to the boss and see what he says. And without any hesitation, he'd love to have a quarter share, and that's how we managed to put the filly together.
Princess Victoria comes up, moves in, set to race. Avontuur Estate, Cape Fillies Guineas, Grade 1, all clear. Racing from that 1600, and Razzle Dazzle Rose dwelt as the pens opened, slotting in at the back of the field. They head towards the 1000. It's Trinity House in front. She leads the way by 2.5, and tracking her in second comes the Princess. Trinity House is in front. Up there in second we've got Princess Victoria, and Princess Victoria now starts to close ground on Trinity House. Along the inside comes Dubai Gina, then we find Miss Ipanema deeper out on the turf, and next comes Razzle Dazzle Rose. Along the inside with 300 metres left to go, Trinity House then in front. Here comes the Princess. She's being left loose with 200 metres left to go. Ladies and gentlemen, Princess Victoria has taken the lead from Trinity House, and we're looking at another right royal performance as Princess Victoria, reigning monarch in the Avontuur Estate Fillies Guineas, she takes the glory from Trinity House, Thunder Dance and Dubai Gina. Owned by Mr. Peter De Beer, Mrs. G.A. Jaffe, Messrs. M.H., R.C. and L.H. Jaffe, and Main Chance Farm Pty Limited. The nominee, Dr. W.A. and Mrs. N. Jacobs. Trained by Glenn Cotson and ridden to victory by Sean Cormack.
I've sat on what I consider one of the best horses I've ever ridden, if not the best. Anton rode an absolute gem of a race. He knew that if he went slow enough and sprinted, that he'd unsettle my filly a little bit, and he did. But obviously, she's got loads of class, and she's taken a few strides to get into her rhythm. and then she's gained her momentum and she's won, you know. And look, I'll be honest, she didn't win as convincingly as she did the other day, but when you consider the pace and the style of the race, you know, I don't think she would have. But that's what champions do.
The perception was that some of the guys on course saying that she didn't really accelerate like she did when she won a previous start. But I think that was great tactics by a very professional team in Joe Ramsden. He realised that the wind was pumping today. He had the best jockey, current champion jockey, and a great judge of pace. I think, you know, if you look at a professional outfit like Joe Ramsden, they sussed everything out. There was a strong head on wind. We decided this morning that wherever Anton is going to be sitting behind him, but we didn't think he'd be out in front, you know, going a very easy pace.
Between Anton and I, we just decided to take the bull by the horns, and if nothing went, you know, we were going to jump well and see if anything wanted to go around us and go from there. We could have taken the chicken's way out and just dropped in and waited to see what happened and take our own destiny. It didn't really happen. You know, Princess Victoria looked at one stage like she was going to go around, and it would have been interesting if Anton had just taken a little bit of a pull and see if the filly would have gone round and sat behind her and then played cat and mouse that way. But we were beaten by a very, very, very good horse, and it was good today to actually make her run and give her a go. I'm delighted. The first thing the jock said is maybe we should give the Colts Guineas a miss. And about 20 minutes after, he said, no, bugger that. He said, you know, I've got to take these words back. Her win was great today. You know.
She had to work a little bit harder than perhaps one might have thought compared to her previous run. But then, you know, a few questions were answered today. She does stay the mile. She can cope with the long run in. She dealt with, you know, good old Cape's Southeaster. And she showed a bit of guts when she was pushed a little bit at the end. If we go for the Colts Guineas, then we would obviously have to miss the Paddock Stakes, which is a week later. So it's really a choice between those two, I think. You know, and it's a question of which is easier, to take on Igugu in the Paddock Stakes or to take on the Colts.
The partnership asked me if you had to have one race and make it your ultimate goal, what would it be? And I thought about it. I said, well, I think she's the type of filly that can win the July if she's placed right. And saying that, as soon as I expose her to the older fillies, the handicap is going to nail her and she'll carry the wrong weight for the July. She has been put into the Colts Guineas. After her first run, I knew it was a bit of a break to her next run, and I had the option of bringing her back and giving her grass gallop to get her that second run after a layoff syndrome. And I opted not to. I thought, you know, let her go in, you know, underdone, and I'm sure she would have come on from her first run. Keeping in mind that the Colts Guineas is only 2 weeks away. It used to be a month away when fillies like Starford ran and won and Empress Club.
Funny enough, I've looked at some of the tapes of Empress Club recently because I had the foresight to keep the tapes, some of the great tapes that my parents had, and she actually runs a bit like Empress Club. You know, I think this is a partnership decision. There's obviously a lot of interest in her. We've got to think very carefully. My own particular position is that we shouldn't go too fast. I don't think we should rush her. She's a 3-year-old. I think she should come through the racing and be in good form and have no problems. I think from what I hear from Glenn is that she's very clean, and we don't want to start with leg problems if we over race her. So I'm more conservative. I want to slow things down and just take one step at a time.